thank you all for sticking around. My name's Tim. I'm one of the co-owners of Park Theater, and this was just a special opportunity to invite writer-director of Sanctified, Nick Swedlund. Yeah, come on up. I just wanted to do a... I have, yeah, there's your mic, and here's your... It's either water or moonshine. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yes, thanks for coming. Nick and I went to film school together, and so when this all happened, I mean, for him with movie, and this all happened with, for me with theater, it was kind of a fun, like, oh, we should do something.
Yeah.
Movie plus theater equals.
It was this event.
Yes, exactly. So, anyways, let me get I have all kinds of thoughts.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. Are you ready for this? Or it's just, it was a Q&A.
I have done this before.
Okay, good. He's ready. But I have so many thoughts and questions, and I want to go. Let's see. I have good deep thoughts too. So I hope you're ready. Okay, no. So
I'm having so many college flashbacks right
now. yeah. This will be like the midnight like college dorm in the hallway when you're just like talking like philosophy and theology. And actually, speaking of, I want to start with story and symbolism, and then ask you some of these questions, and then we'll move on to like production and actually shooting it. And I know like the pandemic slowed you guys down, a big delay and all that. I want to hear that.
Just a bit.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. What's in the chest? I loved that whole, Hitchcock famously coined the term MacGuffin for a thing that's like, like it reminded me of the briefcase in, in Pulp Fiction.
That's exactly the reference.
Good. Yes. I loved it. Yeah. So that's what I thought of. I was just going to ask you, speaking of Tarantino and Pulp Fiction, what are some of your film influences, like as you were writing this and shooting this, that you feel like informed you, making this movie?
Well, a lot. So there is Pulp Fiction. There is that, it's the mystery the whole time of what's in the chest, what's in the box. There's a little bit of Seven in there.
Ooh,
that's a little darker of a reference, but it's the same idea. And then there's
Seven. What's in the box is a severed head. Yeah. So this was a little bit better.
It's a little bit different.
Kind of like a nice golden.
It's a little bit. Yeah. I was thinking this is probably PG-13 because the language not PG.
Yeah. So
it was your fault.
Yeah, it is my fault. I slapped a rating up just on the marquee because we put the ratings on the movies up there, and I texted him. I was like, "Hey, I rated your movie PG. I hope that's all right." And he was like, "I'm cool with it."
Yeah, that's fine.
And
I was like,
no, but I made a list of all the bad words that the cool outlaws say, and I had some friends who were like, "Hey, can we bring our kids?" I was like, "Here's the list. Like, here's all the words that are said. Are you cool with that?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're down."
Awesome,
So,
great,
yeah,
perfect. References or influences. I watched every Western I could get a hold of as I was writing, and as I started writing this, that's when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out.
Okay, yeah.
The video game. So I immersed myself in that as a great excuse to play that game. But there's a reference to Tombstone in this.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
With the soup bowl line, right? And then there's a
wait, did I miss?
A Hunt for Red October reference as well.
Okay, fun.
Right?
Wait, hold on. What was the soup bowl line? I think I missed.
Well, he
that.
says, I'll give you the kind of five before I turn this nun's head into a soup bowl. And Kurt Russell says, like, your friends may get me in a rush, but not before I turn your head into a canoe. That's in Tombstone. Man. So, and then the Hunt for I can't talk today. The Hunt for Red October line is Sam, whatever his name is, Sam Neill.
Oh yeah,
Neill, right?
Yeah.
He says, "I would have liked to have seen Montana."
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is, I would have liked to have seen California.
Ooh, so like I didn't pinpoint that one specifically, but I knew that this was a very that line when what's the brother's name?
Emmett.
That was very touching, and I was broken up about that death scene. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but like that line, I would have liked to see California. It was really good. Well, cool.
I'm sure there's even more in there. I can't think of them right now.
Yeah, but because broad strokes, you're consuming.
The Sister Sarah reference is the Eastwood film, Two Mules for Sister Sarah, which is the only other film I think that has like a cowboy and an outlaw in it.
Yeah.
And so I had to that's more of a defensive note.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
On my end, where it's like, no, I know it exists. Thank you.
It's called like hanging a lantern on it, right? You don't want some critic or fan out there to like, oh, you're ripping off the nun thing, and it's like, no, you have this line in there to show them that you know what you're doing. Yeah.
Right. And in that movie, she's not actually a nun.
Right.
It's quite the opposite, actually.
Okay, so actually one of my favorite lines is one that our nun says when she says, she's talking about the Badlands, and she says, "It's in the darkness, the most violent places, that his love shines ever brighter."
Yeah.
So let's talk theology.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go there.
We did go to Bible school together.
Yeah. So, so the themes are definitely there, obviously, with like a believing nun, a non-believing outlaw. Here's a big connection I loved was we do know we find out what's in the box, and it's this kind of golden treasure, and outlaw Weston is like, he can take off with this thing at any moment, right? So where I went was Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, where Jean Valjean steals the silver from the bishop, and then the bishop like brings him the candlesticks, and he's like, "Here, you forgot these. I gave these to you." After Jean Valjean is arrested, and so it was. I don't know. This was a cool, just kind of a cool parallel, because in that one, Victor Hugo has the bishop say, "I've bought you now. You no longer belong to evil. You belong to good." And that Jean Valjean has to he has to decide if he agrees with that. Do I?
Yeah.
That's West, all the way. And so I just found it really telling that your title is Sanctified, and it's not Justified. I mean, that'd be a great show on FX.
It would be a good title.
What a wonderful TV show.
Yep.
But it's intentional that it's not justified. It's sanctified, because sanctification is that theologically speaking, in the in the Bible circles, the process of becoming more and more, godlike or Christ-like.
It's to be made holy.
Yeah,
would be the simplistic.
And so
definition.
it's that changing process. And what's cool about your character, Weston, is that it started in his life even before he's ready for it and before he's agreeing with it. It's just the. I don't know. There's a lot there. I guess I don't really have a question, but I know that you're a good enough writer that you spent a lot of time on those themes and on these discussions that they're having. So tell me about your process there with all that.
Well, that's there is a question in there. It's just not formed as a question. But that's fine. So the theological themes. I mean, having grown up in the Christian faith and our Bible school training. And just kind of being steeped in that for a long time, it's in me. It's a part of me. So this opportunity to express the two sides of my own personal view system, where I get to angrily complain about God through Shaw, and then I get to convince myself that I'm wrong through Hildy as the writer, because I wrote both sides of those two characters, right? And then Wes is the soul that they are fighting over.
Yeah,
essentially,
Yeah.
But the sanctification thing too, for me, it is. Well, I went back and forth a whole bunch of times. Whose sanctification are we watching? Whose is it? And because it's his to a degree, but I actually, if I was to be put in a corner, I would say that this is her sanctification process, and his is in there too, but his really starts at the very end.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That's when the process of him being made holy is when he goes into the church to become a priest or something, but
accepts the invitation. Yeah, yes, right. Yeah, yes. He's not pushing it away anymore.
Right.
That's interesting, because I was so focused on his process, and seeing it again tonight. It's things are started in him. Nuns, kind of egging him on. Kind of just teasing him with these theological concepts, and because she knows he doesn't. So it starts, and then it wears him down, kind of, and then her his baptism, but her sacrifice in blood, and the taglines on the poster, like, we always pay in blood. Like, so there's the, I mean, if there's a justification that happens, it's not really, it's not yet. It's his transformation is still in process, and then it really, like, he accepts it in the end.
When Shaw says, "Did you think you could purchase your freedom without the shedding of blood?" That's straight your line, by the way. That's Andrew. No, but I was going to say this. The other thing about the sanctification thing.
And I was gonna say, sorry, you'll get it back. I was gonna say I totally missed. I was so focused on Weston. I didn't think of it as the nuns' process at all, which is totally true, because the nuns and the pious and the religious would agree that, like, even as like a faithful like believer in God and a follower of God, you're still being worked on, like, up until, like, your dying moment, and so. Even though she's, like, holy, it's like she's not really.
Well, she's not. Yeah. She's a broken person. Like, and that's I didn't want, because I was thinking, I'm not Catholic, but I was thinking, why does someone devote their life to a higher calling like that? Why does someone, like, in that, like, that's like a life. That's not like a vocational thing for a few years. That's like the life. Right? Yeah. So either, because there's, like, the young nun at the end. There's that version where it's like, at 14, 15 years old, they would, like, okay, I'm gonna go do that, right? But not Hildy. Hildy has this whole story. She was married, and through tragedy, and I wrote it down, like, in a character description. It was either the grave or God. Like that was the choice that she was faced with, and that just made for I think a more well-rounded character, to where she can say, when Wes says, she says, we're all dying, basically. And that's a very dark thing for a nun to say. But that's, she has a darkness in her. She's angry, she's frustrated, and and she's not, like, the whole, like, I will pray for you. That's just me being like, that's the best insult a Christian can give someone. I will pray for you.
Yeah, kind of like the bless her heart.
God bless you. Yes. So, like, there's anger in her. There's, she has seen tragedy, and that's, her sanctification process has been long. It's not been like this, like, she's a nun and she's perfect and awesome and this angel on earth. That's not it.
Yeah. Well, no, that's why it resonates, because it's not a one-dimensional or even two-dimensional thing. There's this three-dimensional person that we're watching. Right. Okay, so they're traveling north, and so I don't know. I love I don't know. You tell me. Is there symbolism behind, like, heading through desolate kind of like land in a northerly direction? Because my mind definitely went to C.S. Lewis and the Narnia stories, and specifically A Horse and His Boy, because there's a horse and a boy traveling through I think Calerman, the deserts of Calerman, and they're trying to get north to Narnia,
right,
where it's safe, and, like, there's a safety refuge there, and so, like, there's so there was an opportunity to name your movie A Nun and Her Outlaw. Just to make it full on A Horse and His Boy, like, themed. I would have gone there, but but was there any deeper significance to either research you did, like, historically speaking, like, were there folks kind of going north into Canada? I mean, there were actually bad lands, and there were these, like, kind of crazy times and crazy regions out, like in the Dakotas, or was it just a pure
I wish I could say that there was a big, deep meaning there.
Okay.
Not that there. It was it was more of, like, just like an intellectual research kind of thing, where the Byzantine, not Byzantine, Benedictine. Byzantine is a very different thing. Benedictine nuns in that time were traveling in the West, and that's where the German comes from at the end there, and I can't get a Byzantine nun image out of my head. That's just very different. Because But the north thing is, like, the Badlands are of North Dakota, not South Dakota. They're in the far western edge, and Williston is north of there.
Okay.
And it's a well-known, and the primary audience, the first audience, like, it's for everyone, but the first audience that I was aiming at was the North Dakotans that basically paid for it to happen. So, and actually, when we screened this in Bismarck and in other cities there back in September and October, when she says, I'm heading north to Williston, and he goes, Williston, why? They laugh and laugh and laugh. It's just like this little dig, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the Williston screenings went, but
right. Yeah. If they were in on the joke too.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question about Shaw. And I should introduce. We have Mr. Andrew Wheeler here tonight, who plays Shaw on screen. So he's he's in attendance. Awesome. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Boo! I love it. I got hissed at a screen.
Yeah, but a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There was. I don't need to put you on the spot, but it a lot of fun. Just like. You did such a good character with Shaw, and actually, I wanted to ask specifically. Did you watch Deadwood? Was do you know Al Swearingen? There was I picked up on a little bit of Swearingen just in your character, how you personified this guy.
Yeah, but there was no sea sucker word.
No. The expletives were.
We were actually talking about Deadwood earlier tonight.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
At dinner. Thanks for coming out tonight, by the way, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, but just such a fun villain. I don't know. You need a good villain. Me and my wife have a disagreement about she always dislikes the people you're supposed to dislike in shows, and I dislike them too, but I love to dislike them. And then a lot of the weaker stories don't have a good, really fun to dislike bad guy. You were fun to dislike, and Darth Vader. Darth Vader has a whole following, but he's so good. And if you don't have a good kind of an anchor like that. But
thank you.
My question, yes, you're welcome. My question is when what's the gunslinger woman's name when she rides up? Yeah, and delivers the belts. Mm-hmm. Shaw is reading Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. I tried to look. What play? I'm just curious. What play was Shaw reading in that scene?
So he's reading Richard III.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And I picked this passage in Richard III. Just to get you up to speed on that, Richard III takes over the throne. He's very much of a showman, and he's such a sinister dude that he's ended up killing everybody around him that could care for him. And he's visited by all of these ghosts in his tent the night before the big final battle. So he kind of wakes up and he just realizes that he's kind of alone in the world. And then he goes out to fight his battle. And then at the top there at the mesa, it was great. Nick allowed me to have a couple of references there, my kingdom for a horse. And so that book is my grandfather's copy of Shakespeare. And it was great to have. The set design for this was phenomenal. Inside of that tent, sadly, you'd never got to go in there, but it was just the most amazing interior of that set. There was a candelabra in there and a writing desk and a bookcase, and this was who this guy was. He, I wanted him this as a grand guy that maybe would go on to be a governor of, first governor of Dakota. Those guys in the West they were outlaws, but they seized this land. The only problem was that his body was falling apart. This was a guy who was debilitated and, weak. So Richard III was a bit like that. He's having struggling getting around, but he's such a fun, fully realized character that I wanted to be able to bring something like that to the screen. Nick, in our first meeting when we had a Zoom callback, right, for this part. We hit it off because we really talked about that what I wanted to bring to this was to be the mountain that the protagonist, Wes, has to climb over, right? The higher the obstacle, the mountain, the more, his journey is grander. And I definitely felt that Shaw provides the Old Testament kind of truths that this kind of New Testament relationship that Wes and Hildegard have can be fulfilled, right? The premise is the same. You got to pay in blood, right? That's East-West. You pay in blood here, and life is cruel, merciless, kind of place where you shed blood to get what you want. And then enters in this kind of divine difference where the relationship is still the shedding of blood, but in a different way, right? For atonement. That's what's great. All these great, names for films, atonement, sanctification, justified, they haunt our cinema. And they're about, characters being driven by the need to change their lives, right? And she's the inciting incident that comes in and offers a new path.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
So what a great character, man. That final death scene was so awesome. I loved it. And on the page, it just says they have a gunfight and Shaw dies. And so we had a conversation, It's like, it was
the
we had the day, coming up. Yes, it was so awesome. It was so well written. But in cinema conversation, right, John Ford, one of the great first directors of Westerns. He makes all these Westerns back in the 40s and 50s. Akira Kurosawa, the greatest Japanese film director, he watches these Westerns and he's like, I want to make samurai movies that are like that. He makes all these samurai movies. And then later a whole generation of filmmakers watches Kurosawa and they're like, Sam Peckinpah's like, I want to do that. And so it's a conversation. So that final death scene, I just wanted it to be like a samurai duel, that pure stillness, the shot, you don't know who dies, and then the stumble. I mean, that just, so good.
Yeah. It's
just so good. And I was like, that'll live, but that death will live forever. I'm so happy.
Well, hey, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Yojimbo. There's a big reference.
Yeah, okay.
Yojimbo at the end.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Yojimbo's a Kurosawa movie. The whole ending thing when he walks up to the camp. Actually, there's a Boba Fett reference in there. There's a Man in the High Castle reference in there.
That's fun.
Like during that, the blocking, like the planning of the shootout, the DP and I, Ben Enke, that got the camera, we would say, okay, so he's gonna go from Boba Fett to Man in the High Castle to this other. I forget the other one. It was like Indiana Jones, or like we were like had to break up the shootout in different pieces just to like keep our heads straight.
Yeah, and those are your names for this. Yeah,
for that
portion
sequence.
Of the, oh boy. All right, yeah, I want to ask you about like production and like the kind of like the nitty gritty of it next. First, just last thought on Shaw. I loved Shaw, but what my big takeaway. This is not really a question, just an observation.
Awesome.
But like I loved the inverted prodigal son thing going on. I mean, you have a father and son like strong theme, and in the the biblical parable of the prodigal son, son basically steals from a father, and then the father welcomes him back and is showing the love and acceptance of undeserved love. Here we have Shaw just on his tail the whole time, screaming, no son steals from me, and it's like a photo negative of the prodigal son, where as if you had a malevolent, evil father who wants to do harm, but you're highlighting the beautiful other version of a story like that by showing the inverse of it, and I just found that really, really beautiful.
That's awesome. I've never thought of it. But isn't that the fun thing about a film is both like that takeaway for you and the Shakespearean stuff too. Like I didn't think about Richard III as I was writing that, but the pages that I wrote and based on our conversations, like that's what you brought to the table to elevate the character off the page, off of like just this like he's a bad outlaw character, right? But then he brought his training, his background, his understanding of Shakespeare to the character, and then it became a much more well-rounded, character.
Yeah, no, it really did. Okay, so production, you guys were. I mean, you were writing, and then your location scouting. I think when the pandemic kind of slowed you down, and so you could back up and talk about writing a little bit too. But I'm curious. Yeah, what was it like being kind of just. You're gonna go and shoot on location, and you're looking at those, and then you can't for how long?
Well, so I think I wrote the first draft in like 2018.
Okay,
I think 2019, somewhere in there, and we were supposed to go shoot this thing in May of 2020.
Nice,
and that didn't work out.
Yeah.
but yeah, around that time I did do an initial scout. So I drove out 8 hours to North Dakota, and walked around in the snow and picked out a couple places. But then the pandemic hit and we pushed. No, the first year we pushed. No, it was 2018 because the first year we were going to make it and the money didn't come in, so we had to push a year. And then the pandemic hit and we had to push another year. That's what it was. And we finally filmed in May of 21. We stayed at, a bunch of us, most of us stayed at the Badlands Ministry Bible Camp about 10 minutes south of Medora. Okay. And some others were in town as well. But and then we shot 90% of it, 95% of it at the campgrounds, and one of our investors owns, hundreds of acres, but a half an hour from there, and that's where the bluff at the end and the outlaw camp, that's all on his land. He's actually one of the guys, in the horses and running. He loves Lonesome Dove, and he's awesome.
Awesome. Was the
Kim Shade? Yes, Kim Shade, the Shade Ranch.
Was the pandemic slowdown good in any way? Did you refine story at all, or did more funding come in? You guys had done a Kickstarter, and you were going to raise money, and then you ended up shooting way past your Kickstarter total. So did having more time benefit anything in any way?
I'm sure it benefited the script. The specifics I probably can't think of right now, but it just gave more time to develop the ideas and the planning of the shots and kind of the definitely the production design. So all the props and locations and all that that's the production design. That having an extra year to plan that stuff and kind of go through that, as opposed to this mad rush. I've done those too, and those aren't fun.
Your guns definitely were not spray painted like squirt guns.
Yeah, no.
You had time to find some real good stuff.
Yeah, Ray Heiser out of is he from Casper or Cody, Wyoming? Yeah. So, Casper, yeah, he's a wrangler and an armorer, and he's a wild man, and he's awesome. He ended up buying the horse from a different guy. Anyway, so
after shooting,
yeah, cool. He loved that main horse so much.
There on your film's Instagram account, there was a photo. I know you have a whole insider cast and crew Instagram that I think only donors to your Kickstarter have access to. But in your main feed there was a photo of you guys location scouting in the snow like you mentioned, but then there's one on a field with this kind of little kind of dilapidated house, and I'm wondering if that is the
church,
the church in the end.
Yeah.
So tell me about that, because I did not know that till seeing it again this time.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, that's the same shape and roof line, but the photo when you were location scouting, that's a dumpy falling down.
Yeah,
thing.
it was this one family owned it. It's a very small plot of land, and the surrounding landowner was really antagonistic. We had this little footprint that was okay to be on, and I think it was the family used it as a hunting shack.
Wow.
Yeah, it was at one time a schoolhouse.
Okay, so it had way back a bell tower or something.
Yes.
But if you guys saw this picture, it's incredible to see there's this glowing white nunnery in the end of this film that you would have thought it had to. You guys transformed that with.
To your earlier question, that. So the production designer and Dan Belinsky, the guy that played Wes, who's also the main producer, they spent a couple of weeks during the pandemic. He would drive out there and they painted the two sides of the building that we see.
Okay, so the camera pivots over here.
Yeah, it's just the front and this side. Awesome. They didn't paint the other because we don't, they don't see them. Uh-huh. And then on the side that we see, they added this little, this wood facade with the church windows that aren't church windows.
Yeah,
They're just there.
Yeah.
And the back piece too. I think might be CG actually.
The horizon behind the.
Oh no, that one there is some of that
to
take
the
out
extension of the building.
Jack pumps and a couple power lines and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But and then the bell or the cross that was put on, and we had to put a false roof on because it was an old building, but it had a modern kind of roof, and so we put on this what was it, a cedar shingle thing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, that's that's the little things that I love about movie making. And one of the things that as a little kid, that drew me to probably like yourself, going to film school, like just the movie magic. So boy, that's I don't know, I didn't know that at all, and that's really cool. Okay, I think we're about out of time, but we have like a couple minutes left. Any last thoughts? That I don't have. I'm out of questions, but I know it was quite just a journey for you. So
it was an incredible experience, and I'm eternally grateful for everyone that was involved. I'm very. A couple questions from the audience, maybe.
Yeah, I that's very generous. I didn't think of them at all. I just wanted to ask you all of my questions and tell you all of my profound insights.
Do we have time for
there are people here.
Do we have time for 3 maybe?
Yes, we do have time for 3.
Okay.
I'll repeat it or you can speak loud enough for the room.
I just have a question about, so Claire and all the other cowboys went and shot up west of the Nun area, and then she didn't shoot west, but she came back, and I thought she was going to say that he was dead, but she didn't. So I just don't get that. So tell me what you thought happened.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I thought, and then you tell us. On my first viewing, I thought she brought back Weston's gun belt as a to dupe Shaw, and I got him. But then I noticed that this, it was like, no, Shaw gets really mad. These are his men. Okay, these are the dead guys from his crew's belts. Now he's flying off the handle.
Right. So that's more. So
yeah. So that was the second interpretation. But there was a little bit of duplicity there on her part, maybe.
Yeah, there's a moment in there was a character that we struggled with for a while. And in the beginning, when he first arrives back at the camp, there's that moment, that look between them, right? And we didn't have space in the narrative, space in the film to have a love story of any kind. But we were trying to say, who is this character? Who is this woman in this group of men, and how is she, in the position that she's in? And so it was there must be some kind of connection with Wes. So we did, but it's one of those things where it's that's not the point of this story. It's their relationship is not the A story, if that makes sense. It's not the primary. So when she brings back she had an opportunity to shoot at night, right, and didn't. And there's that brief moment where she just lowers the gun just a little bit, and that little choice is her making her choice, right? And then she brings back the 3 other guns as a sign of Wes. He this is becoming a bigger issue, which then propels Shaw into action. He's okay, I have to. All right, I got to actually do something about this now, because there's so much that we cut.
That's tough. Yeah,
that's tough because there's all these looks.
You're not James Cameron, and you don't have a 3.5 hour movie.
Thing, no. But there's all this stuff where and it's not in the movie, so it doesn't matter. But he looks at all of his other guys.
Sorry, that's our timer. Darth Vader, that's your theme there.
And he looks at all the other characters, and all the eyes of his men are on him. And he's like, okay, I have to do something about this. He's being tested by the presence of these guns, and the horses are empty behind her too, right? So that's kind of the answer to that. It's not. It's more of an open for interpretation.
If we had a 3-hour version, there would be a whole love.
The first cut was 2.5 hours.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is 80 or 89 minutes, I think.
Was there a flashback to the good times in Paris when they were,
No, but there was a whole New Orleans reference. Seriously. Anyway. Any other questions from any folks here?
I have a question about the actual shooting of the movie. What was the biggest obstacle when shooting in the Badlands?
That's a great question. I wish I could have. It should be the weather, but we were super lucky. The biggest obstacle was just getting the people from the camp to the set every day, right? And we had an RV. We had 10 cars or something, and that was just the logistics of moving that many people back and forth from where we sleep to where we shoot every day for 25 days. couple days off, but that was the biggest logistical challenge. The horses were pretty challenging because they were not movie horses. They're not trained to be on movie sets. Those are just ranch horses. After the fact, we were told by Kim Shade that your horse was like, oh yeah, named Cochise, right? Cochise, yeah. Was like, well, yeah, we're surprised he didn't kick him off. You know. Like it's a crazy horse.
Yeah,
we call it it's a crazy horse that like
they took us out like to a meet and greet and pick your horse.
Yeah.
So the wranglers were like over helping somebody else, and I was like, I really like that one. Can I get on that one? And the guy who owned Cochise was like, yeah, my horse will be in the movie. And then the wranglers turned and they're like, oh my God, no, you
yeah,
so, be on that horse, man.
Yeah, so
it all worked out. But to answer your question, I think the film is sanctified to a certain extent because the weather cooperated. Because the Badlands, Kim Shade talked about how like in the middle of June, you could have a hailstorm come through and just level everything. So, I mean, it's Badlands for a reason. So I think that that's the reason why cinematically it's just kind of this untapped resource, just because it's hard to get out there and shoot for 3 weeks without the whole thing going to, you know.
Yeah.
So we were fortunate.
That's that.
Any final question? Yeah.
Are you going into wider distribution with this?
Yes, we are. We just closed a deal with a distribution company called FilmRise. They're an online distribution company that they then in turn, so they have their own streaming service, but they then in turn also license the film and their other titles that they own to other services like Tubi and maybe Netflix, maybe Amazon, maybe, you know, I don't know the specific ones yet, but that deal is still, I mean, it's closed, but now it's like, now all the, like we got to get the logos to them and we got to get all this stuff. And next week I'm doing a commentary like during the film.
Oh, cool.
So that'll be like an extra feath thing that
fun.
They have. So yeah, that's, and it is playing, it's playing again, February 12th, I think, up in Ely at the end of the Road Film Festival as well. So, yeah, that's the wider distribution.
Nickolaus Swedlund, thangive you so much
Thanks, Tim.
for being here. Thank you all for sticking around for coming out and give these two another round of applause and thank you.